So hi. And before I come to my practice, I will tell a little bit about where it's coming from and probably what experiences and discourses formed me as an artist and so on. So, first of all, I was born in 1988 and in what was then called USSR in this city, which is also then called Leningrad, and none of that exists anymore because in 1991, Soviet Union crashed. And I like to think of myself that I was like raised in the ruins of the empire, something, but like after collapse was extremely special and like erratic time because like in the same time, like all new world appeared, or like all the new commercial opportunities, like quite a lot of people took advantage of that, but also it was really traumatic for some who couldn't get with these new capitalistic values. And at the same time, so like new ideologies appeared, and what's probably more important, new past, like the history was reformed because all their like USSR crimes were revealed, and like history books in school were changing literally on my eyes. We still had like old Soviet ones, and I also had really polarized perspectives on USSR in my own family. And then like when the like Putin times sort of came, they started reforming history again. So like if you grow up like that, if you have experience like that, you quickly learn that history is not something you should trust, and that like it's always a child of ruling ideology, and it's not something you're reading in a book. It's like something which is like here, right, in your school, in your history book. And so I mean, finding that history is so non-trustworthy was like, so how you should base your decisions, how you should base your ideas on if you don't have past. And so at the same time, there was also subjective personal issue about that I guess as every other child, at some point, like when you're 4 or 5 or so, you find out the existence of death and time. And so you just arrived to the world, right? You don't know anything. And then someone tells you, okay, so you're going to die. All your close ones going to die. It's going to happen. It can happen anytime. It's going to happen eventually anyway. You cannot go back to the beautiful moments of your past. You cannot glance in the future. You're basically nailed to the moment where you are at the moment, and like you cannot pose the past you forget, and you get a fake memory, and it's also subjective, and like, well, when did I sign for that, you know? And I mean, most of people deal with that somehow, because I ever understand this like human situation is not really subject of change, but somehow I was finding extremely problematic. I still do. And that brought me to the interest in existential philosophy and like Camus and like all those guys. And so when I was thinking what I want to do in life, I was thinking between philosophy and psychology. And I did, so that's where in this green building, it's like Department of Psychology. That's where I spent 7 years of my life because I left in the mid PhD, and I did paint that time. I did paint all my life, but in my family, no one was an artist, and it just couldn't come to my mind that like art can be profession, can be something you're doing full time. And so like during my PhD in psychology, I was sort of trying to marry experimental and existential approaches. And at some point, my interest to death, which I mentioned already, and like time and all the stuff, brought me to become a medical psychologist in a hospice, where I worked for not too long, for 8 months. And that was a rich experience. But I was just, after 8 months, that was too much. I'm done. I'm done with psychology, with death, with everything. Just let me live my life, have fun and stuff like that. And I decided to go study like art, because art was my hobby. And then I went to study in Kingston. It was like 9 years ago or so. And after that, I had my personal practice. I've been doing really variety of things. I want to show just one random example of my practice to show how different it was. So that's a performance I did. I was lying in a bath reading teenage poetry in a gallery space. And that time I was really into lovers discourse and feminism, and literally like everything. I was like really diverse, like medium wise and conceptual wise. And I wanted at some point to concentrate on something, to be deeper in something, and that something would be painting. But at the same time, I was quite lost in painting when I just arrived to RCA. So that's my RCA studio the last year. And when I came, I was mostly troubling finding a reason for painting to exist in contemporary art world, and to also to have like energy to do that, to have like drive, and to have a language, because like also my language was very different and so on. So coming to RCA and also feeling myself a weirdly foreigner, very foreign. So like I started thinking about like my region's country and all the stuff I just told you. And at some point I had actually to go back because my grandfather died, and I had to stay with my grandmother to comfort her, after all that happened. And there I found our like family archive, which apparently no one ever shown to me. So I found like I just gonna show some of these photographs I found. So I mean, I guess everyone have photographs like that, right? And they were really in a mess, and I tried to organize them. And when I was looking on them, I was thinking like, I know these people in theory, but I don't know them then. I don't know when they were young. And I it gives you illusions that you approach past, because photography is probably the closest device to time machine, right? You have like a literal like shot of moment in the past, but it's very selective, it's biased. Not every photography going to survive for whatever like political or whatever other reasons. And you see these people, but you cannot really feel the time. And this like polarizing perspectives on Soviet past, which I mentioned, like everyone looks so happy, but apparently it wasn't really happy time. And I started feeling I want to bring my presence in them. And by bringing my presence, I thought like, I want to draw on them, because like by drawing, you bring your body sort of subjectivity, you're inserting yourself in like in something you're drawing on. So, and that's how I came to this very first work, which I did in RCA from this series. And so I just basically printed one of the photographs of my grandma and her sister when they're like 19 and 20-year-old girls on some party in Eastern Ukraine. And I found like it was extremely easy to do that, extremely fast. And I thought like somehow this like dialogue with the past, like dialogue with the pre-existing image gives me energy and drive for my painting. And I thought, well, maybe I should probably concentrate on that, because like it really evokes something in me, evokes this like desire to change human situation somehow. And so these like works were from my work in progress show. They all are also based on printed photographs from my family archive. And they're relatively small. The biggest is 80 to 60 or something. So with these works, also I was thinking they give me this playfulness. You're just like becoming a child drawing over pictures in the magazines. And this playfulness I cannot really achieve having nothing to dialogue with, because in this dialogue, it's a bit of mockery, like this little pig, for example, in the bigger painting, like it wasn't an original one, it was just funny to add it. And at some point I brought it to a bigger scale. So based on this photograph, I did this work. So it was like this work was the first one which I did using a projector. So I projected a photograph and did an outline and painted it over. And somehow it became a bit more difficult than like working with a printed photograph. But at the same time, I liked that they brought more subjectivity in the very like transferring of the photograph to the canvas. So I'm also like, it's not like some machine doing that, I'm doing that. So this is based on a picture where my father and his friend are playing chess on the beach, I assume. And it's a bit bigger, as you see, it's like 2:155. And the scale allowed me to feel painting as some kind of portal to like step in. It was like I later turned into even bigger scale. And also the fact that it's like my father's personal past. It's like I'm not intruding, I'm intruding someone's past who is still alive, who can be unhappy about that or like happy or whatever. Like this dialogue was something interesting for me. And this work and the photograph it based on, I'm going to show the photograph. I normally don't do when I do exhibitions and stuff, but like I think it's interesting to understand where my practice is going from. So I really like this photograph. On that, like my grandfather is doing a surgery, or I think actually changing bandages maybe on a kid. My grandfather was surgeon and father was surgeon, everyone was surgeon. So I kind of failed the dynasty. So And somehow this very work, like when I was doing that, I somehow, like as I said, my grandfather died, and I was like dealing somehow through it. I was dealing with that fact that like you have this person on a photograph, but they don't exist anymore. Like this time don't exist anymore, and it's like you want to be there, you want to bring yourself there. It's like, and this desire is something very something which I really honestly have. And also, like what I liked about this photograph in particular is that it's like it's very Renaissance on its own, isn't it? The composition, everything. It has like something like taken off the cross or something, and like Renaissance kind of art was always something close to me as well. I did 3 paintings from this photograph. That's another one. So also here I want to point your attention on like the idea that like when I was working on this piece, I was thinking I don't want to have a space where like a viewer, spectator can sort of rest. It's going to be messy everywhere because I don't believe in reality there are places where you can rest. There is something you can be 100% sure about, whatever. So, and I trying to like embrace it in my painting as well, and not to have any count spaces at all. So like not having like, for example, like in Beckham's painting, right, have like a flat surface and then like something like messy. I want to have messy everywhere because I don't believe in flat surface. And so also like this scale kind of allowed me to bring painting to dance. I'm going to show them together, to see it as a, in a way, like a portal. I'm entering like something very physical, something where I'm inserting my full body, not just like hand, but like kind of movement from the shoulder. And also subject of surgery is something very present in my work, as I said, because I'm from the surgeon dynasty and everything. And I like some tutor, I don't know, I think Emma at some point told me that like my work is like a surgery on the body of painting, and I really liked it. And I like I want to like maybe keep this understanding that I'm kind of breaking forms when I paint. I want to tell a bit about how my work looks like. So I like to have a lot of paint pre-mixed to have it relatively liquid and be able to change how liquid it is. So as you see, I'm using these containers and have quite a lot of like stuff. And also you can see that I'm like super messy with my work, and my studio never was particularly neat place. Right, so that's also my studio from RCA from first year. And so I'm going to tell a bit now about this work. So this work is, again, my family photograph with people posing. And what I like about that and what I continued further in my practice is breaking the relationship between foreground and background. Like here, for example, every kind of shade or like some just like sketch can get further, and someone shorts can get further, someone face can get back. So it's not necessarily face forward and that's a forward, that's like a background, that's a foreground. I want to like break the structure of the photograph this way, because like break this perspective of the photograph and like destroy it sort of. And also I like about this work that everyone, like everything there want to get further, and they're all sort of jumping out. And yeah, again, it's like, since I want like I want to get myself in a photograph, maybe I'm trying to get a photograph also like jump out of itself. That's this painting in space when I was working on it. Then this work was different from most of my works. First of all, because now it's not anymore my family photograph. It's a photograph I found and bought in a flea market. And they, like, I know they're like Jewish family of 1932 because it's written. So there's a location where it's all happening and everything, but that's it. Yeah, again, I like here the feeling of like that everything have like randomly spread importance. And maybe I kind of come to that from sort of object-oriented ontology of like having that, like, for example, someone's shoe can be more important, happen to be more important than someone's face, and then like someone else's face more important than like the background, some background. And so like, I mean, just like the importance and the foreground in my painting spread completely randomly. Then like that's one more painting from last year, one more surgery. This is again not my family photograph. It's a boat one. And so like this painting in particular took me like really fast. It took me maybe like 30 minutes overall. While some other paintings, like this one, I want to show even the process of it, took me like month and a half. And there is an important question with my practice: where should I stop? It's always there. I'm always trying to find out, and it's always tricky. And so, like, because as you see, I could technically stop on any phase of this painting. And so when it's there, and I have like a quote from Roland Barthes, which I'm going to show you, which I used to kind of get where I should stop. So it's from Lover's Discourse. And so I like this part: something accommodates itself exactly to my desire, about which I have known nothing before. So in my painting, I sort of like deciding where I should finish. I look for something which accommodates itself exactly to my desire. So and it should be something I didn't know before. But so like I didn't plan my paintings. I just waiting for a moment when I see, okay, it's there. Then like my paintings are not necessarily based on photographs. It can be technically any like image I get attachment to. And I have quite a lot of paintings based on Rubens. Also this is oil on paper, so it's like more, it's far more little than most of my works. But so all painting is like, this is like Rubens' painting Massacre of the Infants as a base, and all paintings is also something containing past, because how Rubens approached his works and how Rubens' contemporaries seen that. Like, it's not how we see it at the moment. And also, like, I had this idea of like falling in love with the image, that like if you go in the museum and you see the painting and you can't just see it, and it's like if you're in love with someone, right, you're never happy with just seeing them. You like want to touch them, you want to get closer to them. And with painting, like, it's not allowed. So what you can do, a part of like getting it and drawing over it. This painting is also based on Rubens. And also Rubens is like my favorite painter, and what I like about him so much, as I think maybe from my perspective, like, and his contemporaries thought something totally different. But I take I think like how he approached body is very sort of body as a slime, as a flesh, not like as a person. And somehow I take it from sort of anti-anthropocentric maybe thing, that I think of myself that like I am basically constructed of like slime and meat, and my brain is also slime, and like paint is a slime. So like in a way, everything is like this biological sort of connection of thing, which I find really interesting. And yeah, so like with this particular work, I was really exploring this like slimeness of paint, of something like very physical. Yeah, and this is also one of my biggest works in terms of size. So this probably is the last project I'm going to show. That's like works I did in residence in Montenegro. And since it was in Montenegro, they sort of asked me to find something somehow connected to my practice and to Montenegro as well. And I found this photographer, Yelena Mrazovskaya. She's the first Russian / Montenegro female photographer. So she was active in St. Petersburg in early 20th century. And she was a big friend of all the theater stars of the time, including this person, Komisarzhevskaya. She just had her own theater and was like a big name back then. And what was interesting about the photograph, which this work is based on, is that there is like, they are not a family. They are like actors, and they are playing entirely for a camera. So at this moment, like camera, thing which just appeared basically is acting instead of the whole room of people. So they are like playing their roles for camera. And I thought it's interesting in a way. And so also like I think my work is quite theatrical and sort of performative. And so in this way, I like the theme of theater. And this is another work from the same series. I also did it in Montenegro. So it's like based on a photograph of the same author, of like where she takes pictures of the chemist Dmitry Mendeleev going to like expedition to Siberia with his colleagues. I honestly don't know who are the rest of the people about except of Mendeleev. And yeah, again, like I liked how theatrical their poses are. They're clearly posing. And like we don't really pose this way anymore for photographs. And I thought it's like really cool. So that's like the exhibition of them. I just like didn't find any better picture. Yeah, there were more works as well. And so to sum up, I'm probably going to show the last painting I just finished like 3 days ago. And it somehow sum ups my whole thing because it's surgeons, it's like found pictures, there are also dancing gestures, and I like this is the one which is really big, and I'm really approaching it as like stepping inside. So yeah, I guess my time is over. So thanks everyone for listening.